I can hear myself. I haven't done this alone in so long.
Hey, let's talk.
Hello, collecties, and welcome back to Collective Sound. I'm Isabel Pacey, and I'm by myself today. Usually this is where I go, and I have a wonderful guest. But I'm by myself today. I thought we'd spend some time alone. Something I'm learning right now. No, in reality, I'm really stressed and didn't schedule an episode this week. So I thought we could go back to our roots and be by ourselves. So here I am. I did put a story up on the Collective Sound Instagram, which if you don't follow it, make sure to follow it. It's collective.sound or collective.sound, whatever. You're going to want to make sure you follow because I typically post like pictures and stuff from guests and things guests have referenced in the episode, all of that fun stuff. We also post about our playlists that are bi-weekly, so a lot of fun information there. Big things coming this summer. You're just going to want to follow it so you don't miss out. Anyway, I put a Q&A sticker up on there, and some people asked some questions, so I thought I would just ask some questions and hang out. And the questions are pretty fun, I will say. So I'm just going to go through the questions. It's going to be super chill. I'm recording this while laying in my bed in a giant hoodie with the hood up. So just like get comfortable while you're listening to this, and just know we're like kind of having a little slumber party right now. So not in a weird way. Don't make it weird. In like a fun, girly, fun, silly way. Anyway, okay. So the first question is, I should preface this. On the story, I said ask questions or tell me stories that you want me to tell or any secrets or any of that. So some of these, I had to explain that for some of these to make sense. So the first thing I got was tell us the time you were the most starstruck and why was it Dua Lipa? Excellent question, Cam. Yes. I typically don't get starstruck around people in front of them. Typically in my like heyday of meeting celebrities, I would be really nervous beforehand, would sweat a lot, meet them and be pretty chill, and then afterwards probably cry. I like cried like a little baby after I met Ed Sheeran, that people were like actually concerned for my well-being. So that's just like kind of a preface. But in front of people, I'm usually pretty cool. I act pretty cool. I probably look really lame. I don't mean like a cool person, but I'm pretty chill. But I will say, when I met Dua Lipa, I couldn't contain myself. This was sophomore year of college, and I was going through a huge Dua Lipa phase. This is when New Rules was like ruling the radio, all of that. So I won a radio contest to meet her and was dying at the thought. And so I went to the radio thing. It was like your typical radio contest. She performed a couple songs and then everyone got to go meet her. So while she was performing the songs, I was like front row, and I just like, she's just so, I mean, if you've seen her and you don't have a crush on her, like something's wrong with you. She was wearing these like incredible jeans, and she's really tall, but she's wearing like, I'm not even kidding, probably like 6-inch like boot heels, and they had flames on them. And I just like, the whole time she was performing, I was just literally in awe. And then when we met her, I think I was like the first or second group to meet her, and as my roommate and I had nothing planned, and I wanted to tell her how powerful she is and how powerful New Rules made me feel at the time, but I couldn't even get it out. And she literally looked at me, she's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I couldn't respond. That's so embarrassing. I couldn't respond. I said nothing. I literally like looked like a deer in headlights, probably, because I was so blinded by her beauty. And we took a picture, and I like walked away. It was so embarrassing. So embarrassing. But yeah, that's the like one and only time I've been starstruck to someone's face. And it was the most insane feeling. And I feel bad. I wish I would have played it cooler because she's so freaking cool. But I didn't. Anyway, so that was the time I was the most starstruck. Our next question is, what was your old Twitter handle? My first ever Twitter handle was Taylor Bieber 13, references to Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift at the time. This was probably, I was in middle school. Like, this is really early Twitter, and Justin Bieber is just getting big. Like, this is probably one time era, my world era. And I was obsessed. And I made a Twitter behind my parents' back, and I tweeted Justin like every hour, every day for him to follow me. And he literally followed me, and I lost my mind, but I had to do it in private because this account was a secret. And then I did deactivate the Twitter because I was scared my mother would find it. I don't think she knows about this, so Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry for lying to you. And it didn't last that long, and now I'm living with the consequences because I could have had an account that had a Justin Bieber follow, which now would have been insane. So that was my first Twitter handle, and then I went through a lot of different Twitter handles through the years, just through different fandoms. I had a Harry Styles one that I don't remember. It might have been like something It honestly might have been a reference to Style by Taylor Swift. I don't remember. Something about that. I went through a 21 Pilot phase where I just like really wanted to meet Tyler Joseph. So I had something about that, about like Tyler hug Isabel or something, kind of really whack like that. So I definitely had that. And I had a lot in between. I was obsessed with Emblem 3. So I had something about Wesley. Really embarrassing. Now, tweets, I can't even get into that. I've privated my account, and I'm scared to go back on my, I had a fan account and a personal account because I didn't want people from my high school seeing it. But I did occasionally tweet on my personal account, and I'm honestly scared to go back. And I can't believe I'm saying this out loud because now you can go and stalk me. You'd have to try really hard because it's like years back. But I tweeted the most embarrassing things. I don't even want to know. I made fan edits. I made edits of me and celebrities. Like, that's all you need to know. Videos with music. That's all you need to know. So my whole existence was embarrassing. The next question took me a while to understand, and I actually had to read it a couple times, but it was, how are you affected by the divorce, or were you unaffected? And I was like, divorce? What divorce are you talking about? This is in reference to haylor, Harry and Taylor Swift. I will say that I think I'm more affected now by the divorce, my divorced parents, as in Taylor Swift and Harry Styles. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I did have a phase where I hated Taylor Swift. Why? I was taught misogyny through culture, and I am so embarrassed by this time of my life. But when Harry and Taylor Swift were together, I did hate Taylor. I also was really protective over Harry Styles in a really scary way. So, but the phase didn't last very long. It was probably like a week or 2 weeks. Granted, their relationship was only 3 months. But now, I wish I could go back to that era. Like, they were so powerful. And I'll say it, but I think some, if not all of Taylor's best songs are written about Harry Styles. So that's really it. And he inspired an iconic era, which is 1989. So what a beautiful relationship. Bring it back. Mark my words, if on the 1989 album, if Harry Styles is featured on Style, I will do illegal things. I will do scary things because I wouldn't put it past them to do that. And I don't think it's totally out of the picture. It'd be crazy, but we know they're friends now. They talk to the Grammys, and it would literally break the internet if they did it. And they have the power to do that, and I wouldn't put it past them to do it. So please, Harry and Taylor, I know you're not listening to this podcast, but if somehow this got back to you, just for the children of your marriage and your relationship, just do it for us. Thank you. Next question. What are your favorite songs or albums at the moment? I think an obvious one is Sour by Olivia Rodrigo, the entire album. Front to start. That didn't make sense. Start to finish. Front to back. Every minute, every second of it, pop gold. I stan Olivia Rodrigo so much, and she's like 17. This album is just making me feel a lot of things as a 23-year-old woman, and I'm not ashamed of it. Brutal, that song makes me want to go back to my high school and like spray paint something. I don't know. Making me feel crazy. Also, Favorite Crime. I was singing it in the car today, and maybe I shed a tear or two. We're not sure. Besides that, a couple other albums I'm really liking is Maybe I'll See You at the End of the World by Sydney Sprague. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's Sprague. It's incredible. Big fan. She's pretty small. She's an up-and-coming artist, so I definitely recommend you listen to that. Another one is Ali Nage's new album, which the album title is so long, so I hope I don't butcher this, but it's a touch of a beat, gets you up on your feet, gets you out, and then into the sun. But the whole album, perfect summer indie girl album, makes you want to like run around in a field, but also do a lot of other things. So highly recommend. Ali and AJ are back to take over the world, and jump back on the train while you can. And then another single I'm just loving right now is The Walls Are Way Too Thin by Holly Humberstone. I talk about her so much on this podcast. It's a little ridiculous, but I really think she can do no wrong. And every song she puts out is incredible. So yeah, those are my favorite songs and albums at the moment. The next question is, what is a lyric that changed your life? This is maybe the hardest question I could be asked. Next to what are my favorite albums of all time, because I am such a lyric girl. Like, that is what I care about in songs, are lyrics. That's what I listen for. I care about the production and melodies and all that. I care, but like when I'm listening to a song, I'm like reading the lyrics. So this is a hard song for me, This is a hard question for me because I feel like I really should know because I love them that much. But when I'm asked, I'm stumped. The first thing that came to my mind is really cheesy, but it was my favorite lyric in high school. And I don't know if I would say it's my favorite lyric now, but it meant a lot to me then. And I feel like it was just really important to me in that era. But it's Be a True Heart, Not a Follower from The City by Ed Sheeran. When I met him the second time, I had him write that out on my ticket from the show. And I like had it hung in my room all through college. And I don't know, it's just really special to me. And I think it's special because it was special to me when I was like probably 14 or something. It's off his first album, so when I was really young. And that's really when I was getting super into music, so that meant a lot to me. I also think, this is another thing I bring up on basically every episode of this podcast, but the bridge to the end of All Too Well by Taylor Swift. Like, nothing could touch that. I don't think I could talk about lyrics without talking about that. Maybe we got lost in translation. Maybe I asked for too much. Maybe this thing was a masterpiece till you tore it all up. Like, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. I also think the entirety of Blood Bank by Bon Iver, start to finish, every lyric, the vibe, everything about that song has been my favorite since I was probably 11, 12. And back then I did not know what anything, like I could not relate to those lyrics. I did not probably know what they meant or any of that, but it just made me feel a lot of things, and I still to this day feel that. So I think the entirety of that. Also, I think the line, and at once I knew I was not magnificent from Holocene by Bon Iver also gives me the chills every time. And every time I see that live, I just cry so much. Another notable line is from Fine Line by Harry Styles, and it's Put a Price on Emotion. I'm looking for something to buy. What? So good. And then the entire second half of I Know the End by Phoebe Bridgers. Now that one, I don't know if it's quite lyrical, but I think the lyrics combined with the music make it so powerful, and it makes me want to like put a brick on the gas pedal in my car and just like zoom off and start flying. You know that meme where like the car starts flying? Like that's how I feel when I listen to that song. So those are some that have definitely changed my life recently, or I guess changed my life always. Bon Iver was a pretty old example, and so was Ed Sheeran, so actually ignore me. I have so many others, and honestly, I might do a whole episode about that because I think that would be really cool and kind of just talk about the different lyrics in different eras of my life because, again, I'm such a lyrically driven person. So actually, I'm going to add that to my list. So stay tuned for that episode eventually. A lot of work's going to go behind that, so it might be a bit, but stay tuned. Anyway, next question. What songs give you the same feeling as when you wear power pants? Incredible question. So if you don't know me well enough, but this really feels like one of the biggest pieces of my brand. So if you know me, you should know this, but I love power pants. And What are power pants, you ask? Power pants for me are typically printed pants, patterned pants, just like funky pants. But my definition of power pants are just any pants that make you feel powerful. So do with that what you will, but I'm a big fan of them. They're really all I wear at this point. I love power pants. And they just make me feel like I could take over the world. I could like curb stomp someone. I'm not that aggressive, but you know that feeling. So I think that's the feeling I typically get when I like my first reaction to power pants would be me in like power pants and a Harley tee, because that's kind of my go-to outfit. I feel like if I was a cartoon, that would be my uniform, you know, like the one outfit they wear. So that feeling is very much like I'm a powerful woman, I could take over the world. So those songs would be That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain, I Did Something Bad by Taylor Swift, and honestly probably the entire Reputation album as a whole, and Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Those are kind of my initial thoughts on what makes me feel as powerful as wearing power pants. But I'd love to hear your answer to that and what makes you feel like you're wearing power pants, or maybe what songs I should be listening to when I wear power pants. That would be a really good playlist. Nicole, I hope you're listening to this episode. Please make that a playlist in the coming weeks, is songs to listen to while you're wearing power pants. Thank you, Queen. Okay, next question. What Taylor Swift era is your favorite and why? In parentheses, rank them. I think asking me that is a war crime. I really think that's an inappropriate question to ask, because how could I? How could I? That's like picking a favorite child. I love Taylor Swift so much. And I think the really hard thing about Taylor Swift is that I so grew up on Taylor Swift. She was, one of the first albums I bought. And every album, I really felt like I was growing up with her. She's older than me, but I really felt there's a lot of nostalgia that comes around a lot of her albums. So for a long time, it was Fearless. Like, Fearless was everything to me growing up. I think that album kind of raised me in a way, and means so much to me now, especially now that she's put out the re-recording. I just feel like every song has such a different meaning to me now. But 1989 is also so important to me, because I feel like that's where I really learned to like appreciate pop music. And that was like when I was in high school and finding myself and all of that stuff. And also, like, come on, Harry Styles. It was also such a cultural moment. I feel like that might, like, when it comes to like Data and stuff, be her biggest album. And I feel like that was like peak Taylor for me. So that was just a really big phase of my life where I loved pop music. I slept on Reputation. I'll say it. I didn't like it when it came out. I can't believe I did that, because now I'm like, holy crap, this album is so good, which I felt like a lot of people did. So I know I'm not alone there. Reputation's so good. But then like Folklore and Evermore bring in a whole different realm here, because that came out in the perfect time where I'm like loving indie music. And also like Justin Vernon's involved, who's like probably my favorite artist of all time. Aaron Dessner, like The National, like everyone I love is involved in that album. So it's really hard for me not to put Folklore and Evermore at the top, but then also 1989. So long story short, get it? Long story short, I will not be answering the question. Because I feel like every Taylor era like correlated with my era at the time. Like me in high school was so 1989. Me mid-college, so Reputation. My all-black era that I'm still in, have always been in, but like all that. And then Folklore, Evermore came out very in my like indie era. So I just feel like I am Taylor Swift eras. So that's like asking me what era of my life is my favorite. And that's terrifying. That's a terrifying question to answer. So I won't be answering. Next. What concert am I looking forward to most now that the world is reopening? Wow. I think the obvious answer is Harry Styles. I've been waiting so long for that show, and I'm ready to be in the pit. I'm ready to dance. I just think concerts are going to hit so much different once things are opened up again. Like for example, I've never seen Taylor Swift live before. That's insane. I'm such a big fan, and that when she came to Nashville for the Reputation, I was just like, oh, I just don't know if I should be spending the money. I feel like now I'm going to I already spent all my money on concerts. Now it's just going to be like probably a dangerous amount because I want to be at every show and I want to be in the pit. I want to be going crazy. I want to lose my mind. So excited about Harry Styles. I also have tickets to Girl in Red, which I'm really excited for. Arlo Parks, really excited for. Yeah. And like more to come. The Jonas Brothers just announced they were coming. Billie just announced she was coming. So I'm just really excited to see live music again. So again, I'm not answering the question, but actually my answer is Harry Styles. Next question. Aside from Justin Long, who do you want on a collective sound? Okay, this is my time to plug Justin Long. Justin, I know I could be doing more to get you on the pod. But how could I be doing more when I have every guest pitched to you? And I know you're in high demand. I know there are so many people asking you to probably be on their podcasts. But Justin, I'm different. Justin, I'm different. I really appreciate you. And I know also, why are you being asked to be on a podcast that's about fan culture and music? Good question. That's not really your realm. You're an actor. But what an interesting part of your life and your personality that you could show other people. Your love for music. I know you love music. You're a fan of music. You have musician friends. I'd love to know about it. I'd love to hear your concert stories. I'd love to hear your fangirling stories. Justin, please, I'm literally begging you. I'm begging you. I don't know what else I could do at this point. So please. Anyway, besides Justin Long, so many people. Any person I've named on this podcast, like obviously Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, like they're givens. I think ones that would mean a lot to me, I think Hayley Williams. I would love to have her on this podcast. I'd love to hear more about her life. She is a big advocate for mental health, and so am I, so I'd love to hear her perspective on that. I'd love to have just some artists I'm listening to right now. Lizzie Mcalpine. I love her so much. I think her songwriting is so incredible, and I'd love to hear about her process of that. Holly Humberstone. Gosh, could I talk about her more here? Take a shot every time I mention her name on this podcast. But also, like Rob Sheffield, he's my favorite writer. He is a music journalist. He also has a couple books that are like my all-time favorite books, and he writes about music and feelings in a really interesting way that I relate to a lot and just really love. And so I'd love to talk to him. He's a fan. That's like his whole brand, is that he's just a huge fan. So I'd love to talk to him about that. If you've never read anything from him, check out his Rolling Stone articles he's done for Harry Styles. Incredible. His book, Love is a Mixtape, is so good. Dreaming of the Beatles is amazing. Highly recommend. Gives me the chills talking about him. I would die to have him on. I would die. Anyway, so those are just some people, but I also just love just talking to people who are big fans, big fangirls. I have so many friends who like all we do is fangirl, and I'm so excited to have them on this podcast. And so really, like anyone who's passionate about music, I'm just like a really curious person, and I just want to ask people questions. So yeah, if you want to be on this podcast, hit me up. I'd love to talk, love to chat. If you do music, I want to hear about your music. If you're a fan, I want to hear about your fan stories. And anything in between. If you have a weird idea, pitch it to me. We can do it. I'm down. Anyway, next question. Have your egg shakers been to every concert, and what's your favorite song to play on them? Allie, great question. So I have retired the egg shakers a bit, I will say. A little sad about it now, reading this question. But if you didn't know, I have this little egg shaker that's like a little like maraca thing. You probably used them in music class in like 5th grade. I used to carry one in my purse and used to bring it to every show. And I would take a video of me doing the egg shaker to shows. Sometimes when I was in the front row, artists would see it and think it was really funny. So unfortunately, I have stopped doing that because I don't carry a purse anymore. I'm a little anti-purse right now, which is dumb because I just carry my wallet and my keys and my phone in my hands, and it's inconvenient for everyone involved. Anyway, not important tangent, but I think my favorite show that I brought it to, past tense, would be Half Noise. Half Noise songs are arguably the best songs to do the egg shaker to, and they would also hand out shakers and tambourines and stuff like that to the crowd. So it was just a lot of fun, and it felt like a group moment for everyone involved. So that is my question. The next question is from my sister Emma. She asked who my favorite sibling is, and for legal reasons, I can't answer that question. But nice try, Emma. You can talk to my lawyer about that one. And this next question also comes from Eleanor, and I feel like it's a great one to end on. And I really had to sit and think about it for a bit before I started recording this, because I was like, I'm going to be so stumped when I try to answer this live on air. But she asked, what is the most important lesson you've learned in 2021 so far? And man, what a weird year. I mean, I feel like we've all been saying that for the last year and a half, but I can't believe it's already the end of May and of 2021. That's crazy. I think I've learned a lot this year. I think a lot of what I learned in 2020 is carried over into this year, but I feel like I'm growing a lot, and I always feel like I'm growing, but I feel like the rate in which I've been growing over the last 2 years has been just like insane. I feel like my brain can't really keep up, but I do feel like I'm slowly realizing things that I learned in the past year. I didn't know I learned it in the moment, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, wow. So I wrote a couple because I couldn't do one, but as always, I do this at the end of every year. I do this on my birthday every year. So if you're ever curious about what I've learned in the last, I think I've been doing it since I was 18. So last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, go to my Instagram or my YouTube. Anyway, plugging myself is so ugly. I think this year I have learned, one, that loving people is a choice, and it's not always an easy choice or a comfortable choice, but it is a choice that I'm always happy I made. I think that's a big one. I think also just like around love, just in general, like just giving people love in a friendship, in a relationship, in my family, all of that, in work. I think often I just grew up very much thinking love was a feeling, and I read something recently that said feelings of love follow actions of love. And I think when you put others first and you do things for others and you care about others, those feelings of love will follow. So if that makes sense, I'm still wrapping my head around that one, so I don't know if I explained it very well, but I think that's a big one. I think I read this quote recently that says, comfort is a slow death. On the other side of your comfort is living. And whoo, baby, my gosh, that one really threw me for a loop, and I think is just really eye-opening and kind of woke me up a bit. Sister, let's start, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And I think this podcast is that. I think me recording this podcast on my own is that a bit, because I've become so comfortable just talking to other people and asking them questions about their lives, and talking about myself makes me feel a little weird, and talking about my life makes me feel a little weird. I just don't, sometimes there's that vibe of like people with podcasts, like everyone's just super narcissistic and wants to talk about themselves, which I don't really want to, but also like, is that bad? I don't know. Anyway, wow, this is turning into like Isabel's life podcast. Collective sound who? The last lesson I learned is that you should go to the dentist. My mom keeps giving me crap because I haven't been in the dentist in years, and I'm scared of making doctor's appointments, but I've realized that I am an adult, and I need to do that. So I went to the dentist this morning, and they raved about how good my teeth were. And my mom just keeps telling me, you're going to want to have your own teeth when you're 86. And I said, Mom, sis, you're right. You're right, queen. So everyone listen to their mother and go to the dentist. Listen to my mother and go to the dentist. But that's my last lesson, I think, that I've learned so far in 2021. Because I learned it this morning. It was great. Anyway, that's like all my questions. I feel like that was kind of a fun episode. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it listening to it back. I don't know if I made sense. I don't know if any of this was useful information, but I had a good time. So if you want to hear this type of thing again, let me know. If there's people on this podcast you want to hear from, let me know. If you want to be on this podcast, let me know. If you just want to be my friend, let me know. Always looking for new friends. But I love you. I'm in love with all of you. I really am. I know I don't say that at the end of every episode anymore, because I sometimes forget, because I'm so flustered by who I'm talking to, because I'm usually fangirling over them. But I am in love with every single one of you that listens to this podcast. Even if I don't know you, I'm in love with you. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I don't really know how to end this when it's just me. Sending you love, sending you hugs. And I'd love to chat and talk to you. And thank you for listening to my podcast. It really does mean the world. And this has been such an important part of my life for the last almost year, which is crazy. I can't believe this has only almost been out for a year. I've met so many incredible people through it and had so many fascinating conversations and gotten to know some people I love even better than I did before. So I love this, and I am thankful that there are people out there that love it as much as I do and take time out of their day to listen to it. So thank you for listening to Collective Sound, and we'll see you next week with a new playlist, and the week after with a new podcast with maybe a fun guest. Stay tuned for a surprise. Anyway, it was like, how do you end this? Like, it was good talking to you. Bye. Love you. Giving you hugs. I don't know. I'm just gonna cut it. Okay. Bye.
Collective Sound.
Justin Long, I'm begging you to be on my podcast. I love you.